It started with an email. Subject line, big news. From him, my best friend since college. I hadn't heard from him in a while, but I figured it was a job offer, maybe a speaking gig he wanted to loop me in on. Instead, it was a wedding announcement. His wedding. To her, my ex. We'd broken up a year earlier. No shouting, no betrayal. Just drift. But it still knocked the wind out of me seeing their names together in a serif font, smiling under a sunset I wasn't invited to. The message ended with, "Hope you're doing well. We'd love your blessing." I didn't respond. Not out of bitterness, just because I didn't have words that wouldn't bleed. 2 months later, I was browsing a bookstore, killing time. That's when I saw the cover. Hardback. Clean design. Title eerily familiar. Subtitle even more so. I picked it up, flipped it open. There it was. My story. The one I had spent 3 years drafting, shaping, rewriting by hand. Same structure, same themes. Even the character names were thinly veiled versions. Only now the author was him, my friend. The one who used to crash on my couch and read early drafts over pizza. I stood there for a long time, long enough for a clerk to ask if I needed help. I said no, put the book down, walked out, didn't buy it, didn't take a photo, didn't send an angry text or write a blog post. I just walked home in silence. Because somehow that hurt more than the wedding. Losing someone is one thing. Watching them wear your voice like it was theirs all along, that's something else entirely. If you'd asked me then what I was going to do, I would have said nothing. But silence isn't the same as surrender. And grief, when handled right, has a way of turning into something far more powerful than revenge. People around me had stronger reactions than I did. You should sue. You have timestamps, drafts, emails. Take it public. Let them both burn. But I didn't move, didn't speak their names, didn't scream into the void. I just sat on my porch with a cup of coffee that kept going cold, flipping through pages of a notebook that suddenly felt hollow. The draft was still there, my original. Typed in Courier New, margins too wide, scribbled notes in the margins. Little arrows pointing to paragraphs I meant to rewrite. Places where I'd told myself, make this better, make it count. Now someone else had decided it counted just fine. Someone who hadn't written it. Someone who hadn't earned it. But it wasn't just the book. It was the voice. That manuscript was the most honest thing I'd ever created. Born from nights I couldn't sleep. From moments I didn't tell anyone about. From heartbreaks I didn't have the language for until I carved it out line by line. And now that voice, my voice, was being applauded in someone else's throat. I didn't want revenge, didn't want to win. I just wanted to feel like I still had something of mine left. Something they hadn't touched, something they couldn't steal. One morning, I sat down with a fresh page. Not to start over, not to outdo them. Just to remember what it sounded like when the words were mine. No pressure, no plot, just breath, paper, and ink. A slow return. Because deep down I knew something they never would. You can copy a sentence. You can even copy a style. But you can't fake a soul. I didn't start with an outline this time. No chapter headings, no theme, no target audience. Just a blank page and a promise to myself. Write the truth, even if it never gets published. I began early, when the world was still quiet. Before the neighbors started their cars. Before the notifications began piling up. Just me, a black pen, and the steady sound of ink on paper. Some days, the words came like breath, slow, natural, sure. Other days, I stared out the window for an hour before writing a single sentence. But I showed up anyway, not for anyone else, for me. It wasn't about being clever this time. It wasn't about perfect arcs or market trends. I wrote about loneliness, about waiting for calls that don't come, about sitting across from someone you love and feeling like a stranger in your own skin. I wrote about betrayal, not with anger, but with understanding. And I wrote about grace, how it's quieter than we think and harder than it looks. The story was simple. A man loses his voice, not because someone took it, but because he gave too much of it away. And slowly, word by word, he takes it back, not with a roar, but with a whisper. It took 6 months, then 9, then a year. When I finished the last page, I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone. I just sat there with the weight of something finished, and the rare peace that comes from making something that asks nothing from the world. It was mine. Flawed, quiet, but honest. I printed a copy. No agent, no pitch. Just sent it to a small independent press I admired. No expectations. Just a note inside, this is for no one, unless someone needs it. 6 months after I mailed it, I got a letter. A real one. Postmarked, handwritten. From the editor of the press I'd sent my manuscript to. She didn't start with flattery. She started with a line that stopped me cold. I read this book slowly, not because it dragged, but because I didn't want it to end. She said it reminded her of the quiet books people read in airports and never forget. The kind they pass on, dog-eared and underlined. The kind that doesn't shout but stays. She offered to publish it. Small run, modest budget, no promises. I said yes without thinking. Not because I saw a chance to prove something, but because it felt like the story had found where it was meant to live. It came out quietly. No billboard, no tour, just a soft launch and a few kind reviews in corners of the internet no one brags about. And somehow, it made its way into the right hands. An independent literary award sent a letter. Said the book had been nominated, then shortlisted, then selected. No fanfare. Just a seat at a small ceremony and a name printed on a folded card. When they called me up, I didn't prepare a speech. I just walked to the mic, looked at the small room full of strangers, and said, "To those who left, thank you for making space." No one clapped too hard, no one stood up, but I saw a woman in the back wipe her eye, and that was enough. I still live in the same apartment, same creaky floors, same secondhand desk by the window. Nothing fancy. Most people wouldn't call it success, and maybe they're right. But I sleep better now. Because what I have, I built myself. Word by word, page by page, not borrowed, not stolen, mine. Sometimes I get emails from readers, not many, but enough. They say things like, "This book felt like someone saw me. Thank you for writing what I couldn't say out loud." I reply to every single one. Not because I need the praise, but because I know how much it matters to be heard when you didn't think anyone was listening. A few weeks ago, I walked past a bookstore downtown. In the window, 2 books sat side by side. One had my name on it, the other didn't. I paused. Not out of bitterness, just curiosity. The one with my name, dog-eared, a little worn. The other, clean, untouched, still wrapped in plastic. I smiled, not because I won, but because I didn't need to win. You see, they took what I had back then, but they didn't know what I was still becoming. And when you write from a place of truth, no one can take that away from you. My best friend married my ex. He published my story under his name. And for a while I thought that meant they'd stolen my voice, but I was wrong. They just made room for me to find a better one. To those who left, thank you for making space. I filled it, quietly, completely, and finally, as myself.